Thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We hope your experience is fruitful. Please feel free to visit our website to find out how you can join our growing family. While we are loading your experience, please do us a quick favor and hit that like button from whichever platform you're watching or listening on. Also, share so others may enjoy as well. And we hope you would consider hitting that subscribe or follow button so you can check out more of our amazing content. All right, let's start the show.
Hello and happy Monday, beautiful people of the interwebs. It's Camille Telicia here again with another episode of Camille Over Chai. Today, my guest is Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates, founder of Mental Dialogue. I can't wait for y'all to get to meet him and join in this conversation about intentional dialogue and all that comes with it. So you know what to do. Grab your cup of chai and join me back here for Camille Over Chai. Hey y'all, welcome back to Camille Over Chai, the show where we are expanding the concept of leadership by having authentic and dynamic conversations with amazing, engaging leaders of all kinds. Like I said, today my guest is Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. He is the founder of Mental Dialogue, the community club, and the show. He's also an author and a speaker. I can't wait for you guys to learn more about him. But first I got to check in with y'all. So it's time for us to talk about what we're sipping. So if you are here with us live, or if you're even watching the replay, go ahead and drop in the comments what you're sipping on today. Say hello. Let us know that you're here. Me, myself, personally, I am not drinking chai, but I am drinking matcha, which I think may be a type of tea. I'm doing mushroom matcha today, trying to be healthy. Last show, y'all got on me because I was team not chai, team not water, team alcohol. So today we're on our healthy tip. So cheers to y'all for that. Okay, Kwame says he has lemon water today. Okay, Kwame, all right. Team water for you today. We love it. Y'all saw the ad already for the This Is Not Chai mug that is on sale. I have some other things that I'm working on designing, y'all, and then I'm going to have all of my little sample orders to show you guys all at once. So I can't wait for that, but we do have that coming up and cooking. You can always go to CamilleOverChai.com/shop to see what products are available and when they will be available. All right. Okay, y'all. So we're going to get into the show. Today, we are talking to Montoya Smith. Again, he's the founder of Mental Dialogue. And y'all know I'm going to go ahead and read his bio. Maybe not the whole thing, but we're going to read it. So, like I said, his name is Montoya Smith, a.k.a. Black Socrates. And he is the curator of the Mental Dialogue Community Club, which he founded in 2008. Since then, Montoya has been a highly sought after moderator who has made it his mission to invoke change through paradigm shifting dialogues. From his celebrated conversations with community figures to his work to inspire the next generation of leaders, Montoya Smith, philosopher, radio personality, entrepreneur, moderator, and activist, has emerged as an outstanding voice for change. Montoya, known as Black Socrates, is currently the host of the Mental Dialogue talk show on Blog Talk Radio, which reaches people across America and 11 countries worldwide, giving self awareness to the community. Mental Dialogue is dedicated to improving how African Americans think to reposition themselves in American society and worldwide. Told y'all we're gonna have a good conversation today, y'all. Okay. In addition to hosting the Mental Dialogue talk show, Smith is a co host for Making Money Matter Mondays, a free online event where money and mental health meet every second Monday of the month. Also, from 2020 to 2022, he served as a co host for the Community Checkup, a monthly mental health online event featuring doctorate level therapists looking to prevent suicide and/or oppression in the African American community during the pandemic. Montoya, aka Black Socrates, graduated from the United States Air Force Academy in 1997 with a Bachelor of Science in Legal Studies. He received his master's of Human Resources degree from Troy University in 2000. Before establishing himself as a voice in the community through radio, he served as an Air Force supply officer from 1997 to 2003. Montoya currently serves his community as an after school instructor for 7 years and is the owner of Atlanta 24/7 Mobile Notary. So, with that, I had to read the whole bio, y'all. I said I wasn't going to, y'all, but I had to. So, with that, y'all, please help me welcome Mr. Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates, to the show. Round of applause. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Hey, doing well, doing well. Do I supposed to announce my drink now? Because you already
No.
did yours. Oh, sorry. I saw you announce yours. I thought I missed out on it. Okay, sorry. I'll wait. I'm a bad.
No, you're fine. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me. This part is called the Connection Cafe, where we get to connect and meet and learn more about you. So I have icebreaker questions that I ask everybody, and this is where you'll get to tell us. Okay. So the first question is, what are you sipping on today?
Oh, I wasn't too far off.
No, not too far.
That's all good. I have some Conjure wine. It's a red wine. By actually my sponsor, Ship and Share Wines. Conjure was actually noted in Forbes magazine as a drink for the summer. So red wine by Sip and Share Wines. They ship directly to your door. Check them out.
I love it. Now, what kind of red is it? Like a Pinot? Is it a Cab? What kind of red is it?
Oh, actually, this is a. I'm sorry, I looked at it wrong. It's an Ovine Zinfandel. It's just red. So I just assumed it was red wine, but it's actually a Zinfandel. Okay.
How is it?
I like most of their wines. I have they have a sweet red. I can't think of the name of it. That's like my favorite. But like I said, this one was noted this summer. So I don't drink a lot of red wine, so it's good enough for me to drink it.
All right. I might have to get me a bottle of that sweet red. I like a red and I like sometimes a little sweet. So I might have to see what they're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. That's my favorite. I think it's called now. I think it came Abundance is the name of it. I remember it now.
Oh, I love that. I love that. That totally resonates. Okay. Second question. Since this is Camille over chai and chai is a tea, the question is, if you had to describe yourself as a flavor of tea, what would it be and why?
Oh, it's simple for me. Southern sweet tea with a bunch of sugar. You know what I'm saying? Classic sweet tea with some ice in the hot summer, and it's got to be extra sweet.
Okay.
I'm from South Carolina. That's definitely what I am.
Okay, but why? Why is that you?
Well, I can say it because I'm from South Carolina. I'm a country boy from South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a classic right there. I remember
when
you mentioned that I went to school. So one of the biggest shockers for me growing up in the South, I had done a little travel before I went to college, but I had never been out to the Midwest, if you will. And so I remember going out there, and the first time I go to a restaurant and ask for tea, and it wasn't sweet, blew my mind. Because in the South, if we ask for tea, it's sweet tea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
for me, it was the opposite because I'm from New York. I
Okay.
had never even heard, I mean, I've heard of iced tea, but when I came down here and had this diabetes drink now, okay, okay,
Exactly.
okay, so
Exactly. Ain't
little
nothing wrong with a
opposite.
little diabetes.
Ooh, child. All right now. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the last question, last icebreaker question. What does the word leadership mean to you, and how would you describe yourself as a leader? That's really a two-parter.
Okay, got you. Um, I'll just when I was a little time, even I was in the military for 6 years or whatever, and so I just know that even in that time, my number one thing is I won't ask you to do anything I won't do or
Mm,
whatever. And so when it came down to anything that we a task that was necessary, obviously you can't do everything. That's why you're the leader, if you will. But it was definitely understood by anybody that was, if you will, under me that I was, in a sense, down to get dirty in the event that it was necessary. And so yeah, I would say leadership is when possible, having the experience. Therefore, when you tell somebody else how to do it, you can at least relate to it. They may be the expert, if you will, and quite often that's how it is in the military, where in a sense the officers are not the if they're not the experts per se or whatever. But you want to, if possible, have enough awareness or at least be willing to get down there and learn some of it, even though you're not the expert. So I would say, that's what leadership is just being able to lead people by example.
I like
Did I
that, and I
answer
like.
both questions? I don't know if I
Hmm?
did or not. Did I
Oh
answer
yeah.
both questions?
I mean,
Okay.
well, I mean, you could describe yourself as a leader, but I kind of feel like you did both.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
yeah. But I like what you said about I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I'm not willing to do, because I think that that is a really, I mean, it highlights integrity, I think, as a leader, you know?
Exactly.
So I
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. Yep.
All right, so now we're gonna dive into getting to know you a little more. So the first question is, and this is kind of tying in everything that you do, so I'm curious to hear your answer, is
Okay.
essentially who do you serve and how do you serve them?
Absolutely. So as you said in the bio, I am the curator of the Mental Dialogue Community Club. I would say ultimately, what I who I'm serving in a sense is the African American community from this standpoint. From if you think about the Black American experience and going from a historical standpoint to, in a sense, where we are today, there's always this concept of collectively where we are judging that type of thing. And so, being a lover of history, my hero being Malcolm X, definitely loving Martin Luther King and that type of thing. So, in a sense, taking a little page out of their book, not definitely not putting myself nowhere on that level, but just their idea of service. So in a sense, I wanted to serve our community, but with the term mental dialogue from a psychological standpoint. At the end of the day, you don't act right if you don't think right. So
Mhm.
when you say specifically, who do I serve? It's in a sense, um, if you think about that Black American experience, our community has never had an opportunity to deal with our psychology, even though we've had that experience. So, in a sense, I look at our community club as a space where our community is allowed to sit on the proverbial couch. If you remember back in the day, they would say when you go to see a therapist, you sit on the couch. So,
Mhm.
that's not a term that's used as much now, but in a sense, that's who I serve. In a sense, people who are, we kind of meet people where they're at, but it's just ultimately to try to drop seeds and give people different thoughts. Because I always say the first seed to change is I never thought of that.
Yeah.
And so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. So, okay, I feel like I jumped the gun a little bit. Maybe
Okay.
we should have you explain Mental Dialogue Community Club first so people
Okay.
understand
Yeah, that
that.
makes sense.
Yeah. So, why don't you tell
Okay.
them a little bit about what it is?
All right. So there's the first part of it is in the name itself, mental dialogue. So if you understand in a sense what I just explained, then I will add a little caveat to kind of bridge the gap and then go into this. So mental dialogue, I say there's to a degree is in the name itself. Our idea is if we can improve the conversation inside of your own head, you will be better. Therefore, the community is better. So that's just describing mental dialogue in the name itself. Now, as far as the Mental Dialogue Community Club, basically we are a virtual nationwide premium referral service where African Americans learn to trade ideas, goods, and services through meetups, podcasts, and the social media. And so the ultimate goal is to dialogue and connect. So while we're constantly having these conversations where we're pushing the envelope on how we think about issues such as race, sex, and culture, and we have these, and I curate the show, curate the live event where we're having those same discussions. So, but the ultimate goal is to dialogue and connect. So we use conversations on race, sex, and culture as the draw. That's the dialogue. But the real reason we do it, for all of the work that we're doing, trying to improve ourselves from a psychological standpoint, deal with post-traumatic slave syndrome and all those type of things. So that's kind of the draw. The ultimate goal is so we connect and do business. So the type of stuff we're doing, we're already drawing a certain ilk of people. And so our testimonies end up being that we really end up being a premium referral service.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think of it this way, and I'll be quiet and let you talk, but I'll say this: if you could imagine, if all the smartest people in your city was in one place, would you be there? That's our concept.
Yeah, I like that. I gotta touch on something you just said because it's a term I don't think I've ever heard before. Post-traumatic slave syndrome. You got to break that down for me. What are we talking about?
Yeah, so I've never figured out how to pronounce her name, but that comes from psychologist Joy DeGruy. I don't know if you ever heard of her or whatever, but she wrote a book called Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, and it basically goes through the historical context. So when I say we never sit on the proverbial couch, that's my layman way to explain her actual work in the space of saying. She says there's like 6 different traumas that. So if you think of what's the post-distress disorder or whatever.
Post-traumatic.
Post-traumatic. So it's similar, but it's as it relates specifically to African Americans coming out of the African American enslavement period. And so it's like, what type of traumas that existed for our ancestors that have unfortunately possibly been passed down, possibly through epigenetics, possibly through culture. Now there's different arguments on whether you can really pass down trauma through epigenetics. So I'm not landing and saying that's the actual case, but there is definitely cultural traumas. To give a small example is, for example, like people have gotten to the point where they don't spank their children as much or whatever. And that was very prevalent in our community. Well, a lot of it came from, this is one example, came from the post-traumatic slave syndrome, where it was mothers would be specifically hard on their boys because they don't want something, they didn't want the master to harm them or take them away. And so that's kind of stuck with us. That harshness is still an aspect of post-traumatic slave syndrome. Again, that's just one example.
That is so interesting. And so that's one of the things that occasionally comes up during your events. That kind of
well, what happens is it's not so much that we even specifically talk about the term, because if you were to go read, Joy DeGruy's book, then she breaks down the 6 things. So we end up dealing with it within those 6 elements, if you will. And so, for example, with the name Mental Dialogue, we have professionals in all type of areas, but we have our most professionals in mental health and finance. So imagine, because of what we're talking about, those are who we're drawing the most as far as our professionals. The best thing about the community club, and I call it a community club for this reason, is the only place that all ilks of life rub elbows are sporting events, music events, and church. So by nature, humans are tribal. And so if you're in a space where you're trying to advance, well, you typically try to get around a circle of people that are similar so that you can advance. That's very normal for you to do that. And so it's not every day that, maybe somebody who's just getting into the workforce, or I'll just say blue collar, just for the sake of not having a better term, but it's not every day that a blue collar worker is able to talk. Like, they may say, well, I have this business I want to do, but they're trying to figure it out. So typically it's not every day that they can talk to somebody who scaled $1 million business. That's not easy for them to do. Well, so I'm explaining all that to say, so we are another place where all ilks of life literally meet, just because if you like intelligence, if you like conversations that affect our community, we draw people across all dynamics, and you won't find that anywhere else but the three places I just described.
I listen, you saying some things today. That's so I've never even thought about that. I love it. Your my wheels are spinning. Making notes like, okay, I can ask this. All right, I'm gonna stick to my plan though. So
Good.
tell me how long have you been doing the community club, like the events?
Yeah, absolutely. So our first ever event was in and I was shout out where I had it at, which was Fadeologist Barbershop in 2008. I did go into corporate America for a couple of years, so I haven't had it 15 years straight. So about 12 and a half years out of the last 15 years. So I had like a break since that time. But I started in 2008. I always love to tell the story. I'm a writer, and people that write just write. You know what I mean? Obviously, you highlighted that I'm an author, but I just wrote that book earlier this year. But I've always been writing, if you will, right? So I wrote this piece, and it was just things I would just at time I would come up, just things would come across, and I wrote this piece, and it's in my book that says, "Hey, here's the piece that birthed mental dialogue." Now, at the time, I didn't have that term in my head, but it was just a piece talking about why African Americans specifically don't look at America as the land of opportunity, as immigrants in a sense quite often want to come here. And for me specifically, African immigrants, like, in a sense, they come here looking at it as an opportunity. And I wrote a piece saying, why can't we, as African Americans who see it here, why can't we see it that way? And so I wrote this piece, and I called my best friend out in LA. And I was like, man, and I was just shared a piece, and he was like, man, you got to do something with that. You got to do something with that piece. And I was literally in the barbershop when I was sharing it with them. When I stepped outside, shared it with them. And I literally just asked the barbershop guys, like, hey, man, I just want to start having conversations about these things. Do you mind if I do it here or whatever? And so Brother Jay over at $8 Barbershop, one of the top barbershops in the country, literally said, yeah, let's have it. And at the time, and I always tell this part too, I'm thinking, this is what the barbershop does anyway, so this is a perfect thing to do. And so I'm promoting it to all the barbers and stuff, saying, hey, y'all know y'all customers that are like this kind of conversation. So I go in there, and 3 people showed up. We still had a ball. And the first conversation was, I go by Black Socrates, so I've always done our discussion questions in the form of a question. It was October 2008, and the first question was, should Black people vote for Obama? And it was on the eve of Obama becoming president in November of that. The election was in November of 2008. So it was just kind of like that. So that, just because I wanted to start out with controversial conversations to draw people.
Yeah, that I can only imagine what that conversation looked like then, and then what it looked like for the re-election. I don't know if you did it then, but that would have been very interesting. Should we vote again? Okay, anyways, that's not what this show is today. So in the 15 on and off years that you've been doing this, what do you feel like has been your biggest lesson from facilitating Mental Dialogue Community Club?
Oh, wow, that's a good question. So the biggest lesson is, so I jump in gung-ho, trying to, it wasn't called a community club then. I just, Mental Dialogue I did come up with before the first event or whatever. I called the events Mental Dialogue Live Experience. So I did come up with the name. I've been called a hub and all this kind of stuff. So now we're a community club, if you will. But at the time, I didn't have that name. But at the time, I was gung-ho about just helping our community think different and wanting to save the community. And again, Malcolm X is my hero. So just trying to follow in those footsteps. And so the biggest lesson learned was, you hear this all the time, you can't bring people, you could bring a horse to the water, but you can't make them drink, right? And so in a sense of wanting to just being real fervent about helping people and trying to grow the community or whatever. And so we started bringing, as we got different skill sets becoming a part of because at the time we were just doing barbershop events. So as we had different people or whatever, the guy was like, what's your, I would always make sure that people connect. So we were getting people with different skill sets. It was kind of like, hey, this person can help you. And so the biggest lesson ended up being ultimately understanding, 1, meet people where they're at, and 2, lay the seed and let them pick it up when they're ready, versus in a sense, trying to force what you think they need to do down their throat. just
Mm-hmm.
calling it candidly for what it was. And I don't know if I was necessarily trying to be forceful. I just wanted to help as many people as possible. And so when people would say, "Oh, this is needed," and then not latch on to some of the initiatives we would have, it would be frustrating. So the biggest lesson I learned was not to be frustrated and just let people get, as I say now, they can get on or off the train whenever they're ready, but the train's headed in the direction to help our community.
Yeah, but the train gonna keep moving regardless.
Yep,
I
but they're
love
able to
that.
get on and off. Yep, whenever they want to. Yep.
Yeah. So inside of that conversation, then you started something that was just like, oh, let's have these conversations. And now you are actually leading a community,
Yeah, that's
right?
right.
And so what has that experience been like for you growing into the leader that you are right now?
So yeah, like you said, I was just doing the barbershop events. I
Mm-hmm.
was so it was kind of like it was just a hobby or whatever. And so I would just get a little pizza and chips or whatever, have them at the barbershop and that kind of thing. And then when I went into corporate America, I was going in sales or whatever. I didn't have time to do the barbershop events or whatever. Long story short, I got fired for something I didn't do. And so literally, and during that time, the guy, it was when I wasn't doing them, there was a guy in South Carolina, we're here in Atlanta, but it was where I'm from back in South Carolina, a guy that had gotten a radio show. And so he had heard about my barbershop events. He was like, you should try to bring those discussions on the radio or whatever. So for 3 months, I was driving to South Carolina every Sunday to at the time, no live event, just doing the radio show or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So I did that for just a few months because he decided to go online. I got the radio bug, so I found somebody else that had an online thing out of their house. So I did it. And so the reason I'm telling that part of the story is because you said, in a sense, how did it grow into a community? How, what was that transition like? So once I had the show, and then eventually I moved to another area in Atlanta, and one of my barbers was like, bring that barbershop event to our barbershop. So at that point, once I had the barbershop event going and the radio show going, it kind of grew the community, and eventually I moved into coffee shops. And so so I think I'm answering your question, but that was the experience, having kind of two different areas to kind of reach out to people here locally, and then the
Mm-hmm.
radio show reaching out to people online. So between the two, it eventually grew into what we now call a community club. And like I say, now I'm actually just now adding to the language, because this is what we've always been, but I wouldn't say this, but we really are a premium referral service. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
just now about to start branding the club as such.
Mm-hmm. Well, I actually am curious to hear just like the personal
Okay.
journey growth of
Okay.
becoming a leader of a community. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yeah.
you have members now. You
Right.
are hosting these recurring, what is it, bi-monthly events and things like
Monthly,
that.
monthly,
So
monthly.
monthly events, but
Mhm.
you have multiple events.
Yeah, I do. I do.
But
I do.
you have people that are following you and looking up to you and listening to you, and that's always, I think, an adjustment that
Yeah,
people have to make as they step into like that true leadership space. And so I'm
I
just
got
curious,
you.
what was that for you like?
I got you. I got you. So, in a sense, not just when I was in the military or whatever, partly why I ended up going to the academy or whatever. It's almost like I've been in leadership since I was in the 5th grade per se. You know what I
Mhm,
mean?
mhm.
Like I was the first Black president of my middle school where I'm from, that type of stuff or whatever. And so I
Yeah.
was always in student council, go to a military college or whatever,
Mhm,
which teaches leadership. So in that sense, I'd always been in a leadership role, but specifically for the community club, I've kind of already touched on it, was the understanding of the transition of how to lead this organic community, and in a sense, learn to not be frustrated with, in a sense, people not taking advantage of maybe a connection to some of the resources we had, that kind of stuff. And so learning to not stress that actually improve the club. You know what I
mhm,
mean? Like coming to learn, let people not only meet people where they're at, but let them, in a sense, take part as they're ready. That was the biggest learning lesson in a sense, growing the club and making it much more effective.
mhm.
Or that
Was that
and
difficult for you? Like, are you sort of, I don't know, because I think about myself, I'm a little controlling, just like a little bit though, you know. And so I can imagine like how much of a struggle it is to kind of step into that, like, hey, I'm giving you everything you need and you asked for it. Why aren't you taking it? Like, what was that? How did you
Well,
get to that
it
point of
was
like,
frustrating. Yeah, it was
mhm,
frustrating. You know, and maybe it was that I don't think I was wanting to control things. I
mhm,
was just saying, "Hey, I got these people here that you said you needed this. I got these people." So it was just frustrating to in a see it not happen, just literally out of sheer concern. That may
mhm.
be controlling, but I guess I didn't. You know,
I'm not.
yeah, no, it's all good. And the thing is, I am controlling. I'm not. I'm like that. But I don't.
Yeah.
To a degree, I in a sense, hope I don't bring a lot of that to the club or whatever. But even if I'm pretty sure I have to a degree. But as I understood that transition, I became less of
Yeah.
that because
Mhm.
again, just me coming to understand that people gonna take their steps when they're ready. And then what also helped was because it's done so organically, I don't always hear of the progress immediately because I designed it to be organic intentionally, meaning that you never know who you're going to meet that you need. And we have a certain specific way we do the networking. It's definitely different than most networking events or whatever. And that's just so you can kind of get quickly connected to who you might need. But because we're doing this regularly, what I always tell people, once you build that friendship, now that's a residual income if somebody's doing business with you. So a lot of
Mhm.
times I'll hear about those things later. So it's kind of like as I started hearing the testimonies that because I run the club, I'm usually the one quite often that people are saying, "Can you connect me to this? Can you connect me to this?" So I get a lot of those calls and texts weekly, if you will. But it was like the ones that I wasn't directly connecting, and we started having testimonies, and it was kind of like that made me realize just let people get it as they need it. So and it just
Mhm.
so that was the learning lesson in leadership, if you will.
Okay. Okay. I like it. We are going to take a quick commercial break and we are going to continue this conversation about all things mental dialogue. Honestly, we're going to see where this goes, y'all.
Love it. Thank you.
After these commercials. So go ahead and grab y'all refill. Check out these messages from our sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Camille over chai.
In a world filled with diversity, where radical faith and progressive believers come together, there's a place that's breaking all boundaries and embracing believers from all walks of life. Bullet and Flight Radio, where believers unite, boundaries break, and love triumphs. Step away from the chaos and noise of your daily life. Experience moments for yourself that are calm, serene, and full of peace. A necessary respite to foster growth within you, because self-care should be luxurious. Lux and Noir.
Welcome back, y'all. Did you guys see that new commercial for Pyro Media? Ooh, I loved it. If you guys are not already connected to the Pyro Media Network, maybe you're new here, maybe you came because Black Socrates invited you, please take a moment to find Pyro Media Network on all places on the interwebs as Pyro Media Network, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or X, excuse me, if you use that. Make sure that, and here right on YouTube also as well, make sure that you are liking us, following us, friends with us, subscribe to us, whatever applies to the platform that you're on. Stay connected with us. I don't know if you saw at the top of the show, you may have missed it, but we have a text line as well. You can stay connected with us there, get updates on when we have shows that are coming, that are airing in that moment. We also have our Patreon as well for exclusive shows and content that are going to be coming to you guys. So head to the website, find us on social media, stay connected, stay in the know. In the meantime, though, we are going to get back into this dialogue with Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates. And I want I want to kick off this portion by you telling us where the name Black Socrates came from. Please and thank you.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. So I'm a fan of Socrates. I consider myself a philosopher, right, if you will.
Okay.
And but just in being a fan, it's one particular story. And when I guess from what I understand, I guess his student Plato wrote about him, and I guess Socrates never wrote anything. At least that's how the story's told or whatever. So anything you read, I guess, comes from Plato or his students, if you will. But there's the particular story of his death, if you will, Socrates' death. He was basically put in jail because they felt like he, quote unquote, was corrupting the mind of the youth or whatever. And so obviously he was a philosopher, and he basically was just, I would simply say he was teaching people to critically think or whatever. And so that critical thinking, the government felt like he was teaching the youth to challenge the government, if you will. And so they put him in jail, and they wanted him to denounce his teachings, if you will, and just to let him go or whatever, or he would be put to death. Right. And so there's this amazing dialogue, and I don't know how real it is, if you will, but there's this amazing dialogue of where they let him invite his friends. I'm assuming Plato was in this group or whatever. And so he invites his friends, and they're having a dialogue about him saying, hey, just say what they need you to say to let you out. And he's like, I'm gonna stand on my principles. And they really, they love him. So they're going, hey, why are you gonna stand on your principle? And then they have this philosophical dialogue about what should his decision be. And so it was this, the arguments were so amazing to me. And again, I'm a fan of other work, but this in particular work, and basically he ended up out arguing his other fellow philosophers for why he shouldn't be out of jail, because it just, in his mind, philosophically, from a logical standpoint, was incorrect. And they doubted him. And I tell that story because, again, going back to Malcolm X being one of my favorite or whatever, and it was kind of like Socrates stood on his principles, that he would die for his principles. And I love our people so much, I thought of myself that way. And then also the last part of it was just, if you're familiar with the conscious community and taking different names and that type of stuff, I wanted to take a name that was slightly controversial, just from the standpoint of why he want to be Socrates, you know what I mean? And so if I get that question going, now I got a chance to start a dialogue with
conversation.
I kind of use it slightly for marketing as well. I remember when I first started using it, some people might be like, Black Socrates.
Ooh.
When they did that, I was like, that defeated the purpose.
Because then you got to correct them, and then you just look like a real asshole before you can even get into the conversation. Okay. Before we get into the sweet and spicy part of the Connection Cafe, I want to give you an opportunity to share about your book, because I mentioned you're an author. You have the book called Re-Education of the Negro, and please tell us a little bit about it. You said you just wrote it this year, right? You said
I dropped it officially in March. I think it came out on Amazon in January, but I did an official at my event, my Mental Dialogue Live experience event or whatever. And so anyway, like you said, I wish I got it right around. I would just hold it up. Anyway.
No, I thought about it too. I was like, we could have had
I got it. But anyway, it's called Re-Education of the Negro, and the subtitle was Necessary Conversations on Race, Sex, and Culture. I mentioned a little earlier, I've always been a writer, if you will. So over the years doing this work, I've constantly, sometimes like something with maybe a police shooting will happen. I'm just using it as an example. And it would drive me to write a piece, if you will. So over the years, all my closest friends no, I'll call them and be like, hey, I just wrote this piece or whatever. So all the years they were like, you got to do something with these pieces. So it would just be commentaries, just all kinds of commentaries about our community, race, sex, culture, just things that, and I would write them and save them, whatever. And eventually I made a promise to myself that I would write a book by the time I turned 50, if you will. And so initially I was trying to put it out a few years ago, but it was literally just a compilation of commentaries I've been writing over the last 15 years. Well, maybe some of them even longer than that. And so it was just a matter of putting them together. And then and it also fits into the line of what we do with the live experience, which is we have hard conversations on race, sex, and culture. And so the book is a bunch of commentaries in those areas, if you will. And so the commentary may take you anywhere from a minute to 4 minutes to read, and it's discussion questions. So the book is actually built to design to create conversations on race, sex, and culture. So that's what we do in the barbershop. That's what we do in the coffee shops. So the book is designed, you share your favorite commentary with someone, or bring some friends over and y'all share 2 or 3 of the commentaries and get into some necessary conversations on race, sex, and culture. And it's challenging our community. If you remember, it's kind of obviously taking an ode to Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black history, miseducation of the Negro. So this is the re-education of the Negro. It's not listening to what I think and what you should think. It's commentaries just to challenge how we currently think and try to have better conversations of how to navigate the construct of race.
All right. So again, y'all, the title of that book is Re-Education of the Negro. Give me the subtitle one more time.
Necessary Conversations on Race, Sex, and Culture. You can get it on Amazon, and just look up the title. It's a red cover, and by myself or whatever. But there's
is the author name Black Socrates or Montoya?
Montoya Smith, aka Black Socrates.
Okay, I just want to check. I want them to
be that's smart. Yeah, that's what people look it up. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now we're gonna shift into the second part of the conversation, which is where we just really are dialoguing about a topic.
Oh, you're right in my alley right now.
Of course, I know. So this is gonna be interesting. So what came up for me when I was putting the show together was how the fact that your event is okay. Look at can we talk about production?
Hey, sharp, boy, your production sharp.
Come on, production.
Yeah, come through, production. For real. There you go.
That's the book, y'all. Okay. That was so fun. Thank you for that surprise plum. All right. So to me, I see a lot, especially I'm just looking on the internet and social media, and I feel like people aren't really having conversations anymore. Yes, your event, they're doing that, but I feel like in the rest of the world, even when they are talking to each other, they are not actually having conversations with each other. Why do you think that is? Like, what do you think that's about?
Yeah, so it's kind of, we've done to a degree shows about it in the sense of it's understanding, unfortunately. So the internet, the World Wide Web, texting, social media, if you will, what I always say is, so in a sense, while we're more connected, we're less connected as human beings. Okay. And so I'm leading with that because it's understanding the dynamic of moving from, see you at the grocery store, looking at the strawberries, and I come up and holler at you and try to meet you. You know what I'm saying? Like that's I grew up in that era where that's how you holler at, a woman, if you will, right? And so that whole ordeal requires the potential of rejection and walking up and going through that. And then without social media, like I had when I was growing up, we had to go outside and build our relationships in a very real way. And so with social media, again, while we're quicker to be able to connect, it creates a dynamic where we don't have full conversations. Now, letters can mean a whole conversation, obviously, laugh out loud, if you will, right? But I'm just saying, you can just put a string of letters and people can figure out what the heck you're saying.
Yeah.
And so because it quickened and reduced communication, we're less capable of communicating. So I'm just giving you the short answer for why conversations to a degree they don't have a lot of critical thought to them because we communicate in such a short-handed way that we don't have an expansive understanding of even simple words, if you will. So communication is basically stunted in itself. And then the other aspect is communicating via social media with algorithms. You get into echo chambers. So your echo chamber becomes feeding what you like, and you literally can get comfortable seeing only what you like to see. So before there's social media, and I gave you the example of trying to holler at you at the grocery store, but I'm just saying, even in friendship, when we couldn't text each other and I couldn't keep up with you when I went home or whatever, and I had to build a relationship with you at school, if, for example, if we had a disagreement, it was two ways to handle it, on the phone or in person. That dynamic teaches you how to get through conflict. My best friends in my country town, I told my friends when I got to college, y'all the first friends I got that I never fought. Physically. Like physically.
Wow.
Like straight up. I mean, generally speaking, my closest friends I'm from a small town, so we would go to school with each other for 12 years, like we come like a small town like that. So over 12 years, I probably had, I definitely beat up some of my friends, and a couple of them got me. I mean, but what I'm highlighting, that's who my boy, that's who my closest people are, because we could get through conflict. So to answer your question fully, when you move it to internet and you get in an echo chamber, you now become even more triggered when you see an idea that you disagree with. And so because you haven't learned to build relationships the organic way, the way that humans have always done up until the last 15 years, if you will. So because that skill has not been learned, what happens is when you disagree, you dislike. They go together. So you can literally be friends for 2-3 years via the internet, and your friend, you find out your friend likes a different political party than you, and all of a sudden you block.
Yeah.
There was never an option to dislike my friend over a political argument when we built our friendship over so many good things. And although I don't like your take or who you vote for in this situation, our relationship had been built over something real. I'm not dismissing my friend. We just know we're going to vote for somebody different in the political booth.
Yeah.
But now I'm just using politics because it's one of those extremes. But that extreme now trickles down to anything. You don't like you. That's my favorite artist, and you said something bad about him, I block. Like the term block, like that doesn't exist when you build. Like when you break up a friendship, when you built it a real way.
Yeah.
When it's built the real way, you actually fight to keep it, even when you fought, even when it was over something major, because you know what it took to get the friendship.
Yeah.
And so even if you decided I can no longer have this person in my life, it was hard. It ain't hard to block somebody.
Right.
And you blocking them over, you didn't like what they had to say. You've been liking them for 3 years, and they finally said something that's triggered you. And now you don't have to go through, this is somebody I built through it. I'm just going to block them and never see that again. So that's the answer to why we're not having real conversations. We're doing a lot of talking, but we're not having dialogue.
Yeah. And the thing is that, I'm agreeing with you 100%. And especially, I feel like we are in a stage right now in our society where we no longer see triggers as opportunities to learn something about ourselves. They're opportunities to grow. It's just, oh, I'm triggered and I don't like feeling uncomfortable, so I'm going to go back. I'm going to block whatever made me uncomfortable, and I'm going to just stick in the echo chamber of yes, 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 yes. And then we wonder why people are so stagnant and why there's no growth, and why we just keep seeing the same things repeating and repeating and repeating. And that, I never even thought about some of what you said. That's so funny, because I'm like, my best friend growing up, her dad, Black Republican. Well, he's Bayesian, so he's from Barbados, and Republican. He always voted Republican, but that never kept him from being a part of our community, right? Like our group, it was a group of families, and we all did holidays and everything together. And it's like that never changed anything. It was just, oh yeah, we know, yeah, he's going to vote Republican this year. And so, and it's funny because now it has become this divisive thing where you can't even have a conversation. And the reality is, picking back up on something you said earlier about immigrants. So my family, Jamaican immigrants, I'm a first generation American. And I had a conversation with my dad, and he said, in truth, most of us talking about Jamaicans are actually conservatives. But in America, we're taught Black people vote Democrat. And so it's like fundamentally there are a lot of Black folks, okay, American and immigrants, other to the same, who actually would probably vote Republican if it was on certain things. But because of what that whole party has become and the dynamic of that, they can't even vote for things that they actually agree with. Fiscal conservatism or whatever it may be, you know? And so that's interesting. And I lost my train of thought talking about that. But
let me throw this out real quick because of something you said. I just want to reiterate it. Specifically on that, I have a personal rule of I would never lose a friend because they vote different or have a different religion than myself. And because I do hard conversations on race, sex, and culture. We do not touch politics and religion because people are so vetted. But my personal rule is I would never lose a friend over them voting different than me or having a different religion than me or whatever. And it's highlighting some of what you're talking about. And I just wanted to highlight something that you said when you were just talking about missing the triggers or missing the opportunity. So what happens is in a sense, it's called cancel culture, if you will. And so here's just a specific take on it. So the unfortunate reality is, because of social media and cancel culture to a degree, I'm not going to go too deep into this. It's not as real as we think it is, as far as it actually being as effective as it seems to be when the blowback happens on social media. Again, that happens, but it's not that it's never affected anybody. I don't want to act like it's nothing. I'm not gonna act like it's nothing, but it's not as strong as we in a sense think it is. But here's the issue with, again, communicating via social media and somebody being canceled over a mistake or a bad statement or something said wrong. So in addition to a missed opportunity, let's go dig a little deeper with that. So the missed opportunity is this. So if based on where you and you're like, say, coming from where you come from, let's say the way we were taught, I was taught to hate Jamaicans. I'm just saying, just using this as an example or whatever. Like, somebody in my family had a bad experience. They just, they teach my family that I not like Jamaicans or whatever, or I got a bunch of Jamaican stereotypes or whatever. Same things when West Indies come here, they got stereotypes, and Africans come here because of TV, right? But I'm just highlighting. So you have this thing that you're taught or whatever. The thing that knocks that down, especially for young people, is interaction, right? But let's say, I'm older and I'm having these interactions. I got these preconceived thoughts about, you as, having that background, if you will. And so if I say something that's completely incorrect, that's just inappropriate because I didn't understand it about your culture, like I'm trying to navigate having a relationship. I don't care to have a relationship, but I also don't want to be in trouble, right? But before there was cancel culture, if I say something culturally wrong to you or whatever, it would be corrected from the standpoint of, let me teach you why that's wrong.
Yeah.
So now the echo chamber and cancel culture actually lets people dig in deeper, maintain their miseducated, uneducated beliefs, because they can't throw out a bad statement or some word now that's, that is going to get you canceled like social media does. You can't throw it out and get taught what's wrong with it. So all you do is get canceled or never say what you really think, and you get to harbor that feeling your entire life. But if we were not canceling, it's, throw out and find out why you shouldn't say that word by making the mistake. So many people have learned and built bridges because people said, I used to think this way. I used to be racist. I used to hate this group. And messing up is how they learn not to be that way. Now you can't mess up.
No opportunity. Yeah, I agree. Listen, we could have this conversation for another hour. There's so many other things we could touch on. We got 5 minutes left.
Okay.
So I want you to really quickly, please tell everybody how they can stay connected to you, where they can find you on the internet, what your next event is that you have coming up.
Dope. So mentaldialogue.com. I got everything there except for the book. So go to Amazon for the book or whatever. But mentaldialogue.com is how you keep up with our events. It's also how you can catch the Mental Dialogue Talk Show live every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. via online blog talk radio. Excuse me. But yeah, if you go to the site, it'll just say listen here. And then the show is also broadcast after it's live. You can actually call into our show. So it's a live call-in show. Audio only, not a video show. Just clarifying that for people. And then it's also broadcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much all the streaming platforms. I think we may have just got on iHeartRadio, if you will. So you can go there and listen to the old shows, if you will. Then the Mental Dialogue Live experience is every third Friday here in Atlanta at Urban Grind, Black-owned coffee shop in the Midtown area. My next event, actually, though, we just had the live experience. We did we brought in Making Money Matters, which is another online event that we do, which is where money and mental health meets. So I brought the CEO of Making Money Matters, Ashley Thomas, and the psychotherapist, Dr. Katrina Pittman of A Paradigm Shift. So we do that every second Monday online. You have to ask for an invite via Zoom and we'll invite you. But I brought them to the live experience and we did a conversation on mental health and money. So that was just this past Friday. I'm starting a new event, Cannabis and Conversations, over at Bookstore Gallery, which is a Black-owned dispensary here in Atlanta. And it's going to be a real cool networking event. I say the tagline is where networking is a vibe. So it's really designed on this first Mondays of the month. We started November the 6th. It's designed to really make networking fun. So we always network it out. We got a real unique way that we organically network. So it's going to be 7 to about 8:39. We're going to have some featured poet, just kind of to spice up the evening. But the way that we network is definitely dope. And we're going to get into some business at that conversation. So that's my newest event. And I think that covers everything. But at the bottom line, go to mentaldialogue.com and also follow us on IG at mental_dialogue.
I love that. Y'all, especially if you're in Atlanta, please get connected. Come to the events. Find him on the interwebs. Do the virtual events as well. Obviously, some great conversations will be happening. If you enjoyed today's show, just imagine that in real life, in person. Thank you so much, Montoya, for being a guest and coming on this show. It was a coincidence that we met, and then the fact that we had a conversation and you said yes. I'm so grateful for you being here. This has been exciting. We may have to do a part 2 and continue the conversation. Okay.
I would love to, and I would highly recommend coming to Cannabis with Conversation because I can connect you to some. I love how you do your show, and I can connect you to some other leaders that will be great for your show. So if you're available, definitely come to that on November the 6th.
Okay, all right. Come after my show, but yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. If you get a chance, I don't know how far you are away from.
Yeah,
we're starting at 7, so yeah, just come after your show. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, y'all. So that is all I got for you today on Camille Over Chai. I think the final thought would be go have some real conversations with people. Stop talking in shorthand. Don't just have the stunted, abbreviated conversations. Have some real conversations. Let yourself get triggered. Let yourself learn. And with that, I will see y'all next week for another episode of Camille Over Chai. Until then, be blessed, be amazing, and be intentional. Bye, y'all.